There is one particular technique that I wanted to pick your brain about, because I know you've talked about it a lot. You work with folks on it, and that's telling the story, storytelling. First, what does it mean to you? And then start to unpack that for us a little bit, like storytelling. What is storytelling?
Yeah. So what I believe as a salesperson and even as a marketer, what I believe as whether you're a salesperson or a marketer is engagement is everything. And when you watch a salesperson in a pitch, or even the way she or he presents themselves in a first meeting, the person on the other end of the meeting there is thinking, what's in this for me, right? What's the value? And storytelling for me is a really, really fantastic way, not only to prime that pump of engagement, meaning how to be able to get whoever you're talking to primed up, excited, and into what you're saying. But there's a lot of power in storytelling. So, for example, Chuck, have you ever either seen a live comedy show or watched a comedy show on Netflix, laughed hysterically, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and you could barely remember a single joke?
Right. I just thought I drank too much. No, just kidding. Couldn't remember a thing. Like I went to tell someone how great it was, and I couldn't remember one joke.
Right. But you had a great time. It was funny, right? But there was no real retention. But if I asked you, Chuck, give me the basic premise of the movie Hangover, could you still, right now, after not seeing it for X number of years, could you still give me the basic premise of The Hangover?
Yeah.
Of course, because that's wrapped up in a story. So stories are engaging, they're emotional, and they work on a different part of our brain that makes them more memorable. So the two things that I believe around storytelling is, number one, you should always try to open with something engaging, whether you're doing something you're doing shit, even like what we're doing right now. If we can front load something that we're doing that's an engaging story, right, that really grabs the listener. Whether you're giving some type of presentation, whatever you're doing, the sooner you can front load a story, that's grabbing them. It's creating engagement. The second thing is, and this is universal around so many salespeople, is we're not always getting to all the decision makers, right? Sales is about getting to decision makers, but mostly it's done by committee. So what ends up happening is a salesperson is throwing out facts and figures and features and functionality and data, and you're talking to only part of the decision makers, and then they turn around to go tell the CFO why this is a good investment or whoever else. And it's like, I can't remember. But if you're able to wrap that into a story, it's almost like a Trojan horse where your main point of contact, you've given them something to hold on to, something a little bit more viral. So when you're not in the room, they're able to explain your value. They're able to simply explain, here's the type of things that your solution has done for similar clients. And that's what's sticky. That's what they're able to do to go get consensus within their organization. So I think there's a lot of power in storytelling for both sales and marketing.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about just in general first, how I would go about figuring out a story. I mean, we'll talk about how to tell it later. There's the hero's journey that I'm familiar with. There's a company out there that wrote a book called Story Brand. I mean, those are examples, but how would I wrap my mind around even crafting a story? And what would I be thinking about?
Yeah, it's really great. But before I jump into my best practices, things like the hero's journey, and there's also it's a Pixar technique called story spine. And somehow the story spine, what Pixar uses in movies, has made its way into business. I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't like either of them for basic business storytelling. That is really, really advanced stuff. If you're going to write $1 billion movie, go for it. Go grab the hero's journey, go grab the story spine. But if you're just getting going with storytelling, it's way too complex. And why I don't like it is when you can't fit your story exactly into that criteria, you feel like a crappy storyteller. And that's the last thing that we want. So my framework that I use is very simple. setup, conflict, resolution, moral. And early in my career, people would tell me, Jay, you got to tell more stories. Jay, you got to tell more stories. And I was like, what exactly is a story? And then after I researched and boiled it down, the number one thing that every great story needs is that conflict. And that's what most salespeople and most marketers are missing, because without conflict, it's not a story, it's just a series of events.